सत्संग जी प्यार से कहना धन्यवाद। The human body, a miracle of creation. A creation which has no bounds. The world in which we live in and the body have one characteristic which sustains life. That is absorption. The human body absorbs oxygen to live, to feed itself. It absorbs minerals, vitamins to regenerate, to heal itself. And the same with the world in which we live in. Plants, flowers, anything we observe. The atmosphere is also the same. I once left a glass of water in my room, and I didn't touch that glass for a number of days. And I saw, after a few days, the water evaporated. It returned to its source. It was absorbed. When we sit in positive company, we absorb those positive rays and we feel good, we feel positive. When we sit in negative company, we become negative and depressed. When we visit our Sadguru, his aura, his positivity recharges us. We feel rejuvenated because we absorb all of these things. The reason I give this example is because I need your help for my next task. Every year, whenever I would travel abroad and whenever I would meet His Holiness before leaving, and as many of you have also experienced the same thing, Hazur would always say कि वहाँ जाके मेरा प्यार देना सबको, मेरी धन्यवाद देना सबको. This time, Babaji is in Missouri, and we were traveling to the airport, and the phone rang. And Babaji said कि after the conversation, in the end, कि जिसको मिलोगे, मेरा प्यार और धन्यवाद देना सबको. And as before, first I just heard the words. And I thought, it's easy, I'll go there and I'll just say, Babaji sent his Tanrankar. And everybody would respond with Tanrankar. But then I actually listened to his words this time. I mean, you learn every day. I think I learned that day. We talk of Sadguru's pyar. We just heard that his heart is limitless. I was thinking, why has Babaji given me such a difficult task? Ki wahan jaake mera pyar dena to this person who has no capacity in his heart. Then, when I came to America, when I was thinking on this for such a long time, because I wanted to learn something from this, that is why I gave it some more thought. Then I realized, the example I just shared with you, that we have the power to absorb. Focus on this formless God. Remember your Sadguru. Close your eyes and let His love resonate in your hearts, in your every particle, and say with love, Dhanrankaj. I always think, whenever I have the opportunity to speak in Sangat, or when I'm put to test and placed on top of the stage, that what is it that I can share? What have I learnt? And many times I will say what everybody else says in a different way, hoping that you'd be happy. Last night when I was sleeping, I felt very uncomfortable. And I was thinking to myself, there was something urging me to say something different. On one side, I was very happy that, yes, I'll go and I'll speak. I'll talk on this subject. And my other side was saying, no, don't. People will take it wrong. And then I switched off, and I woke up this morning, and I said, let's throw caution to the wind. And I thought I would talk about true Gursikhi and Gyan. Many of you thinking that, well, that's what everyone talks about, and you should talk about it. Why throw caution to the wind? The reason is it's a very harsh subject, which, when presented in a light way, is very pleasing. But if somebody like myself wants to learn, then there are harsh questions which need to be answered, asked and answered of oneself. I was 10 years old when I received the Gyan. I still remember the date where I received the Gyan and who gave me the Gyan. I was 10 years old also. It was 3 weeks after I had the Gyan that I first met Babaji when he came to England, even though I had been to India many times before that. And in my life, I see myself as being a very fortunate person. So fortunate, in fact, that one day, whilst we were in Paris, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning after Babaji had had his dinner and after he had walked, the Mahapurush there said that, Babaji, all the Mahapurush here want you to go to their house and do charan. And I was thinking, what a silly request to make. It's 1 o'clock. Babaji has a flight the next day. He's probably tired. Why are you asking? I was thinking in my mind. Babaji smiled and said, "Theek hai, ab route bana dena, hum chalenge." And I was dumbfounded. I thought Babaji might come and say to me ki I didn't really want to go, but I have to go. But he didn't say anything. When we reached the first house, the family sat in front of Babaji. And at the end, they said, "Babaji, we want the Gyan from you." And then I thought, okay, that's going to take some time, and if there are 10, 12 houses, it's impossible. Babaji said, "Baitho, darwaza band karo." And I was standing in the room. And I thought, it's my lucky day. Because I never had the courage to ask Babaji that, "Babaji, give me the Gyan, because you are too busy. I should ask somebody who you have deputed to give me the Gyan." That happened at the second house, the third house, the fourth house, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th. And I was the most fortunate person that in that evening, that night, Babaji gave me Gyan 12 times. I returned and I could not sleep. And I said, "You are a fool. Babaji wanted you to understand. That is why he agreed to the program. That is why he gave you Gyan 12 times. If you don't understand now, you're never going to understand," I said to myself. The whole night I did not sleep. And I began thinking about me as a person. When we have the Gyan, it is an individual experience. It doesn't matter if you sit with 10 people, because you have to ask. When you ask, the process begins. As we heard yesterday, as we heard today, the 5 principles is how the Gyan begins. You have to surrender. You have to agree to all the principles. Then becomes the process of elimination. The whole of creation is eliminated. Then there is Gyan. Then your life begins. But it begins at the very first step. And I realized that when Babaji kept asking me 12 times the same question. Ki tan man tan is not yours. This body, mind, and all of my possessions are not mine. The first time I listened and I thought, yeah, okay, I've heard the principles before. The second time, I thought the same. The third time, when Babaji asked me, I felt like I was hit with a sledgehammer. And I said, well, if this body is not mine, this mind is not mine, my possessions are not mine, then who's receiving the Gyan? I said, I'm not here. Then who are you giving the Gyan to, Hazur? Then it struck me that he is talking to my Atma. He is waking that lost soul within me. Then I remembered. Then, as soon as this thought occurred in my mind, the next thought began. That when we have Gyan, when we are to live good lives, as we say, as we've said today, when we are to remember God 24 hours a day, I was thinking, how can I do that? I have to work, I have children, I have a job to go to. It's impossible, I can't do it. We've all heard here, we have to remember God, think of God all the time. How is that possible? Then I saw two lives of mine in front of me. And that began when I started thinking about my own body. We say self-realization through God-realization. What do we realize when we have the Gyan, when we say self-realization? Everyone says, oh, we realize the soul. That is us, that is the self. You realize that when you had the first principle. When you had the first principle, we realized that we are the soul. We were self-realized. Realization of the self is the realization of this human form, this human body. And as I said in the beginning, the unlimited capacity of this human body. I saw those two paths in front of me. How did I hear? How did I see those? In my ears I could hear my heart beating. In my ears I could hear my blood flowing. I could hear the sound within me. I could hear electricity, maybe my nerves. This is my interpretation. Very personal. That's why I said sometimes it's... And I heard electricity, maybe my nerves and synapses firing. And I thought to myself, these are all involuntary things. We have many doctors who are sitting here. A lot of you have studied science also. There are voluntary things our body does which we have control over. And there are involuntary things which happen by themselves which we have no control over. I am sitting here, if I want my heart to stop beating, doesn't matter how hard I try, my brain tells my heart, and I keep thinking, my heart will not stop beating. Something I have no control over. It just happens. The same is with Gursikhi. The same is with remembering Nirankar. Somebody once asked a question of Hazur, and round about the time that I'm talking about in Paris. And somebody said, Babaji, how should we do Simran? When should we do Simran? How long should we do Simran for? What is the time? And it was a young person, while we were walking, they asked this question.